Final thoughts and prediction for Rolly versus Ryan Garcia. Obviously, guys, this is the main event for the May 2nd Fatal Fury fight brought to you by Turki Al Sheikh and Riyadh Season. It's going to be very interesting. I'm excited about it. And let's break down Rolly and Ryan. Let's get our final thoughts. And I feel like this is such a big fight for Rolly Romero because ultimately everybody's counting him out. They all think that he doesn't have a chin, and I think that's fair. You know, you can't help but wonder and be suspicious of Rolly Romero's chin because ever since that Tank fight, everybody thinks that, you know, he hasn't been the same fighter, and for good reason, right? We saw him against Isaac Cruz, and we saw him against Barboso, and ultimately he didn't look good in either fight. Looked like, you know, even the strongest punch from an old guy was able to really rock Rolly, and obviously he does hit hard, so, you know, credit to Barboso, but Rolly just hasn't looked great. You know, let's be real. Rolly has not looked great. He hasn't looked like himself, and Ryan Garcia, coming off that big performance against Devin Haney, is going to be feeling more confident than ever, because if he really feels like he didn't, you know, cheat, if Ryan really feels like he didn't do PEDs, he's going to feel really confident going into this Rolly Romero fight, because he already knows that Devin Haney's supposed to be the more skilled boxer, but is he a more skilled fighter than Rolly Romero is? Because I know that, you know, fundamentally Rolly's not there. You know, Rolly's not at the pinnacle of the sport of boxing when it comes to the fundamentals, but he is very awkward. He likes to get close and he lunges in with a lot of shots, but, you know, more importantly, he hits hard. You know, you could ask Tank. Tank said that Rolly was the hardest puncher he had ever faced, including Ryan Garcia. So in a fight where Ryan Garcia is trying to get that Devin Haney rematch, he's trying to get that highlight reel KO against Rolly Romero, is he going to become overconfident? Is he sleeping on Rolly Romero? That's something that we're going to find out in, you know, the fight with Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia, because for me, I personally think Rolly is underestimating himself and Ryan is underestimating Rolly, because I feel like Rolly Romero respects Ryan Garcia deep down. I think real ones really know, you know, the way that Rolly has talked about Ryan Garcia, giving him his props, his respect for being a draw and being an exciting fighter. I feel like it's clear that Rolly respects Ryan and Ryan doesn't dislike Rolly. So this could cause a lot of interesting things to happen in the fight. For one thing, if neither guy really hates the other, could we really get a knockout? You know, both guys are going to try to survive, and I feel like ultimately, not survive, but I would say that ultimately these guys don't really have hatred for each other. You know, for the Devin Haney fight with Ryan Garcia, that was a different fight because Rolly, you know, Rolly doesn't like Devin Haney because Devin Haney doesn't put on the best performances. But then in this fight with Ryan Garcia, he was able to not get the outcome that he wanted, but he was exciting for the most part. You know, we had never seen Devin Haney in a really exciting fight besides the Lomachenko fight. So the ones that are more competitive tend to be Devin Haney's most exciting fighters, but Devin Haney has been willing to take that risk. And, you know, Ryan still did his thing. So for Rolly and Ryan, I feel like it's going to be very important to have their mental in check and understand that they still want to compete with each other, that they still want to have that killer instinct, because part of me questions whether or not these guys really want to hurt each other, because ultimately we're expecting a KO. I still think we'll get a KO, but both guys seem to like each other deep down. So that makes me wonder, you know, if one is thinking, you know, this guy's my homie, and then the other one's thinking, I want to knock this guy out. The guy with the I'm going to knock this guy out mentality is probably going to win the fight. And ultimately, I still pick Ryan Garcia, because you guys got to remember that Ryan Garcia is a 16-time national champ. I still give Rolly a better chance than people, you know, generally are giving Rolly, because everybody's counting him out because of his chin. But I think he's going to be hydrated. You know, at 147, he's going to feel stronger. He belongs at this weight class. He hits hard. And for Ryan Garcia, yeah, he has the experience, but this guy is physically strong as well. He's going to be hydrated. I think he'll take a better punch at 147. So I'm expecting to see a good performance from Rolly Romero. I don't expect him to win just because Ryan Garcia, like I said, has more experience. There's going to be, you know, that ability to see things that, you know, Rolly won't because he's a late starter in the sport of boxing. But the fact that Rolly is even in the ring with a guy like Ryan Garcia, him being a 16-time national champion, and then Rolly being, you know, a late starter, and they're fighting at the same big event on the same stage, that's very, you know, telling, and Rolly deserves a lot of credit for that because it's not easy to do. He made up a lot of ground in very little time. So I got to go with Ryan Garcia by stoppage, by TKO. I think he's going to eventually crack Rolly at some point in the fight, and they're going to stop it. So let me know in the comments if you guys agree. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next Boxing video. Peace.